Some songs end before you even notice, and others feel like they never want to end. But when one of those long songs is done right, it doesn't matter what minute you're on. It pulls you in, drags you along, and keeps you there without ever checking the clock. That's why today, you're going to hear 13 rock songs so long, you'll seriously start wondering how something this lengthy can still be this good. Some last longer than a short film, others are so intense that time just flies. So if you've ever gotten lost in a song without having a clue what minute you were at, this video is for you. Ready? Then let's get started. In 1974, British band Yes set out on one of their most ambitious creations, a composition loosely inspired by Tolstoy's War and Peace. The result was a 20-minute epic divided into sections that simulate the outbreak of war, the chaos of conflict, and the eventual search for redemption. The track was recorded in Switzerland and included on the album Relayer, marking one of the technical peaks of symphonic rock. This musical journey was so complex that the band rarely performed it in full during the following years. But despite its difficulty, it became a cult favorite among progressive rock fans. Legend has it the original title was In the Garden of Eden, but vocalist Doug Ingle was so drunk when he sang it that the slurred version ended up sticking. Whether myth or truth, In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida was born almost by accident and became one of the most iconic songs in psychedelic rock. Released in 1968 on Iron Butterfly's second album, the original version runs over 17 minutes, taking up the entire B-side of the record. The song went on to sell over 30 million copies worldwide, an unusual feat for a track that long. It's been used in films, cartoons, and was even famously parodied on The Simpsons. In 1972, Jethro Tull set out to mock the pretentiousness of progressive rock by creating one of the genre's most complex albums. Thick as a Brick is a single song lasting over 43 minutes, split into two parts only because of the physical limitations of vinyl. Ian Anderson crafted the lyrics as if written by a child prodigy, and the music flows through shifting rhythms, extended instrumental sections, and unexpected transitions that keep listeners on edge from the first minute. Ironically, what began as a parody ended up becoming a benchmark of British prog rock. Anderson blends flute, acoustic guitar, tangled melodies, and even theatrical fragments, showing total mastery over the long-form structure. So what do you think? A masterpiece disguised as satire? Or a satire that turned into a masterpiece? Let me know in the comments, and stay tuned, because the next track didn't just break boundaries, it nearly broke the clock. In 1971, Pink Floyd was still searching for a defined identity after Syd Barrett's departure, and they found it in Echoes, a 23-minute track that takes up the entire second side of the album, Metal. The song begins with a mysterious keyboard ping created by Richard Wright and unfolds in slow, ambient, psychedelic layers that gradually build a sonic narrativino, clear lyrics, but a completely immersive atmosphere. Echoes was partially recorded at Abbey Road Studios, and the band considered it an exploration of human communication, marine life, and deep space. The eerie, alien-sounding midsection became a defining element of their style. Many believe this track is the true precursor to what would become the Dark Side of the Moon. In the 19th of December 70, at a rural studio in Hampshire, England, one of the most influential songs in rock history was born. Stairway to Heaven was composed by Jimmy Page and Robert Plant during a creative retreat at Headley Grange, where the band often recorded freely. Its length, just over 8 minutes, was unusual for radio, but its gradual build from acoustic serenity to electric crescendo turned it into a full-blown experience. It was released on Led Zeppelin IV in 1971. Though it was never released as an official single, Stairway to Heaven was played relentlessly on radio stations and at concerts. It became the definitive closing song of the band's live shows and a central piece of their legacy. Even lawsuits over alleged plagiarism couldn't tarnish its status. Very case was dismissed.
This is the end, my only
Jim Morrison originally wrote The End as a farewell to a failed relationship, but the song evolved into something much darker and more provocative. It was recorded in 1966 for the Doors' debut album, and in its 11-minute run, the band explored a hypnotic, theatrical sound marked by Ray Manzarek's haunting keyboards and a ritualistic drum pattern. Morrison, lying on the studio floor with the lights off, delivered a raw performance about death, desire, and emotional collapse, with references so explicit they unsettled even his bandmates. The song's emotional intensity and thick atmosphere made it a centerpiece of their live performances. It also became the opening track of Apocalypse, now cementing its symbolic power and deep connection to internal chaos. Released in 1977 as part of the album Animals, Dogs is a ferocious critique of the corporate world and ruthless ambition. Originally titled You've Got to Be Crazy, the song was written primarily by Roger Waters and David Gilmour and stretches over 17 minutes. Its structure features long instrumental passages, biting lyrics, and shifting rhythms that reinforce the feeling of paranoia and moral decay. It's one of the band's longest and most intricate compositions. The song's central figure is cold, calculating, willing to betray anyone for personal gain. The music mirrors this with melancholic guitar lines, tense vocal harmonies, and strategic silences that increase discomfort. Dogs is, at its core, a brutal portrait of a segment of society driven by hypocrisy and survival. In 1976, when their label demanded shorter, more commercial songs, Rush responded with a science fiction suite split into 7 parts and lasting over 20 minutes. 2112, featured on the album of the same name, tells the story of a world controlled by technological priests where music has been banned. The protagonist discovers an ancient guitar and challenges the system only to be silenced. Musically, 2112 combines Alex Lifeson's aggressive riffs, dramatic synthesizers, and rhythmic changes that sustain the tension throughout the entire narrative. Geddy Lee's vocals shift in tone depending on the character or section, creating a sense of theatrical storytelling. While many believe this track would end their career, it deeply resonated with fans and became a manifesto of artistic resistance. If you've ever been swept up by this dystopian story without checking the time, you're already part of the 2112 cult. What's your favorite part of the suite? Tell us in the comments. Originally written as a slow ballad, Freebird was recorded in 1973 and quickly became the anthem of Southern rock. It runs over 9 minutes, with much of that time dedicated to a guitar solo that became one of the most iconic in rock history. Alan Collins and Gary Rossington built that instrumental climax as a rising progression that gained momentum with each repetition until it exploded in a burst of emotional virtuosity. The lyrics speak of the need for freedom, of leaving even when it hurts, and were sung by Ronnie Van Zant with a mix of melancholy and resolve. On stage, the band used Freebird to close their shows, and over time, it became a symbol of farewell, especially after the 1977 plane crash that killed several band members. Its presence at funerals, in films, and during tributes has turned the song into a ritual for millions. In 1975, Pink Floyd opened and closed their album Wish You Were Here with a track split in 2 parts that, combined, run for over 26 minutes. Shine On You Crazy Diamond was written as a tribute to Syd Barrett, the band's founding member who had been pushed aside due to mental health issues. The first section begins with a long instrumental passage, including David Gilmour's iconic 4-note guitar motif, followed by a dense atmosphere built on synthesizers and gentle solos that evoke nostalgia and reverence. The lyrics, written by Roger Waters, speak directly to Barrett's fall, his lost brilliance, and the emptiness he left behind. During the recording sessions, a shocking moment occurred. Sid showed up at the studio unannounced, completely changed, and at first, no one recognized him. It was the only time he ever saw the band again. The song is a perfect blend of grief, gratitude, and farewell, now regarded as a monumental piece of progressive rock. In 1972, Yes released Close to the Edge, a nearly 19-minute track that would come to define the standard for progressive rock. Divided into 4 movements, the piece was recorded at Vision Studios in London and strikes a balance between instrumental technique and lyrical spirituality. The introduction is chaotic, with interwoven sounds that mimic a natural explosion, until it all settles into a melodic riff that makes way for John Anderson's voice. Rick Wakeman on keyboards and Steve Howe on guitar create a soundscape full of textures as the song moves through shifting time signatures and contrasting sections. The ending, serene and contemplative, offers an almost mystical resolution. Have you ever listened to the whole thing without pausing? If you have, tell me below which part grabbed you the most. Supper's Ready is the pinnacle of Peter Gabriel's era in Genesis. Released in 1972 on the album Foxtrot, this 23-minute track is composed of 7 sections linked by a surreal, apocalyptic, and deeply symbolic narrative. The journey begins as a folk ballad, but gradually intensifies into a theatrical explosion of synths, aggressive guitars, and lyrics that weave mythology with religion. Phil Collins on drums and Tony Banks on keyboards form the musical backbone, while Gabriel morphs vocally into various characters. The closing line, "And it's Hey Babe, with your guardian eyes so bluest," one of the most celebrated in the history of prog rock. The emotional complexity and sonic ambition of this song made it an anthem for fans of the genre. Recorded in 2009 by the supergroup Transatlantic, The Whirlwind is a single 77-minute song divided into 12 sections. Neil Morse, Mike Portnoy, Royne Stolt, and Pete Trewavas craft a piece full of melodic intensity, precise rhythm changes, and an almost symphonic treatment of each part. Despite its length, everything is carefully structured to maintain a fluid narrative, with recurring musical themes that help tie it all together. From the opening minutes, the instrumental weight of each member is immediately felt, yet none overshadows the others. The lyrical themes revolve around rebirth, faith, and inner conflict, but it's the instrumental passages that truly give shape to this musical avalanche. And in the end, all these songs have one thing in common. They weren't made to fill airtime on the radio or to please everyone. They were made because their creators had something to say no matter how long it took. Some are farewells, others are protests. Some are impossible dreams, and others just raw emotions spilled onto tape. But every single one of them has that rare power to stop time completely. Now it's your turn. Which of these songs blew your mind? Or is there another never-ending gem that should have made the list? Drop it in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this trip through time, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. See you in the next video where music is always eternal.